hair transplant. So, what hair transplant is a procedure where we move the follicles from the donor area to the recipient area. There are many types of hair transplant. To name it, in recently we are doing FUE, bio-DHT and Sapphire hair transplant. Previously, there was a procedure called FUT, which is Follicular Unit Transplant. From FUT was like taking out the skin with the graft, and there was a lot of scarring and stitches and downtime and all. So now recently, most of the procedures are done by FUE, bio-DHT or sapphire hair transplants. So let's talk about every procedure in detail. The FUT process involves removing a small strip of tissue from the back of the head from which the donor hair follicles will be extracted. The hair follicles are harvested from the strip by a skilled surgical team before being individually transplanted to the recipient areas. In most cases, and especially cases of advanced hair loss, FUT typically allows for the great number of grafts to be transplanted in a single session. But now FUT is no more very popular because of the downtime, because of the long scar from the one side of the ear to the second side, and because of that there is lot of downtime, pain and stitches and all that. People are not preferring, and even the doctors have now evolved with a new procedure of FUE and all. So what is FUE? It is called Follicular Unit Extraction. FUE is a type of hair transplant procedure which harvests hair grafts from the donor site and transplant it to the balding areas of the scalp or face. Instead of cutting a strip of hair from the scalp as in FUT, in FUE, the hair follicles will be extracted one by one with a very small punch. The advantage of FUE technique is that it has no visible scarring. FUE takes place in a single long session or multiple small sessions. The results are naturally looking and realistic because there is no cutting of the tissue. There is less downtime, there are no stitches, there are not too much of damage to the donor area. Then what is bio-DHT? So bio-DHT hair transplant is one of the newest technique in hair transplantation and innovation of the FUE hair transplant. It is mainly differentiated by its implantation procedure, which makes uses of special medical blade, and may in hairline we also may use joy implanter, but most of the time it is the procedure of combining the FUE and bio-DHT. So channel incisions are made with a very 18 gauge needle, and then we start implanting one by one hair follicle. It assures a higher rate of over 90% of hair survival and provides maximum density. From the above three procedure, we at DNCC provide two latest FUE hair transplant and bio-DHT hair transplant. Let's talk about sapphire hair transplant. So now we have third procedure which is called sapphire hair transplant, which is also known as turkey hair transplant, wherein we use a sapphire blade, which is a blade made up of sapphire, and it is a very high graded steel, and it gives the lowest tissue damage, and because of that the healing is much better, density is much better, and the recovery time is much faster. Okay, how many hours does any hair transplant procedure takes? So it takes 6 to 8 hours for bio-DHT or FUE to be done. Now in bio-DHT also we do the implanting in different multiple session. Like bio-DHT means we take out the root in, say, suppose if I have to do 3000 graft, we'll take out 1000 grafts initially, keep it in the saline, frozen saline, and then start implanting. So the body out time for each follicle is less, and because of that the survival of each graft is more better, and that is how we prefer doing bio DHT. And then immediately it is implanted onto your recipient area. Is it possible to transplant hair from other parts of the body like back or chest or the beard? Yes, it is possible, but the best donor area is your middle 1/3 of the scalp area, which is the occipital area, and that is the best area for the donor. That is the first choice of donor area. Then second, if the patient has to go for, like if they don't have so much of donor area over the occipital area, then the second best is the beard. From this part of the beard we take out the roots, and that is also giving good result, but I prefer not doing beard transplant into the hairline or the frontal four fingers. So if you have less donor area and you have to fill up the vertex, then we may use the combination of the donor area from the occipital area plus the donor area from the beard to do this vertex. Also, in many a times, patient doesn't have even the vertex or even the occipital or the beard. Then we may use the chest. From the chest, we can take out some roots and transplant it in between the graft so that the density can be given. How many procedures have been done by DNCC and what is the success rate? So let's talk about that. We have done almost 50,000 patients treated successfully with the hair loss. And from there, we have done almost 7,500 patients done last 15 years. And last 5 years, we have done almost 5,000 patients with the hair transplant, with the biggest number of 2 crore and 20 lakh root we have transplanted successfully, and we have been doing this hair transplant since last 19 years. So we started in 2004 and it's almost 19 years we've been treating the patient with the hair loss. Thank you very much.